There's another aspect to the disaster that's unfolding here with illegal immigration. As Americans start to receive the latest rounds of stimulus checks, a new analysis reveals that about 4.38 billion will also go to illegal aliens. And this study was put together by the Center for Immigration Studies. Joining us on the line now is Steve Camarota. He is the director of research for the Center for Immigration Studies. Steve, thanks for being with us again here on the Howie Carr Show.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you're estimating that 2.65 million illegal aliens are going to have Social Security numbers that allow them to receive stimulus checks. So they're getting money.
Yes, that's right. Right. Yeah, I know this may surprise people, and if you don't know our immigration system, it really surprises you. But there are about 2 million illegal immigrants who do have legitimate Social Security numbers. They're in Obama's DACA, that's deferred action for adults who came as children. Then we have about another 400,000, which is in another program called TPS, Temporary Protected Status. And in those two groups, we give out Social Security numbers. Now, yes, you could argue that DACA was a horrible abuse of executive authority, and
right.
There's nothing
unconstitutional under Obama's. Obama himself said,
yeah.
I think 20 plus times that it was unconstitutional.
Said he didn't have the authority to do it.
Right.
Yep. And then we have TPS, that Temporary Protected Status. So many of the people there have been in there for 2 decades, so there's nothing temporary about it. And then on top of those two numbers, so that those two numbers together is over 1 million, you're looking at about 800,000 additional people who've been given Social Security numbers. And this is in a whole panoply of programs, from people who've applied for asylum, people who have a thing called suspension of deportation, other things called withholding of removal, deferred action, parolees. These are all things created sometimes by Congress, but also by immigration courts at the behest of immigration lawyers. And so we have this, all these other categories, and together that totals 2 million. And we have about 600,000 people who were previously legal. And since we don't take away the Social Security numbers of guest workers and asylum applicants, and we don't zero them out, we're going to accept them. It's got to be that there are about 2.6 million people who have Social Security numbers who can get COVID checks. And if you add up how many have incomes that look like they can qualify, most illegal immigrants, though not all, are relatively low income. And if you take into account their children, you're looking at about 2.1 million illegal immigrants who will get checks, and it'll total over $4 billion. And it could be worse, and I could explain that by why there's probably others who will get it as well. But at this point, it's at least going to be that. There's just no question about it.
So like DACA, for example, I know there's this Harvard study that was done, and these are supposedly the cream of the crop of illegal aliens. But according to the Harvard study, 74% of the DACA people, the dreamers, are on welfare of one form or another. But now, in addition to being on welfare, they're going to get a stimulus check. And they're here in the country illegally.
There's no question. Right. And remember, although they have no legal right to be here, they are legally entitled to get the stimulus check. I know that seems convoluted, but this is not fraud. They're not ripping the system off. They have a valid Social Security number for employment in the United States, and Congress chose when
but they're not working. But again, a lot of them aren't working. They haven't been working since they got here.
Yes, some of them aren't working. You're right. Some are. But Congress could have said, for example, you have to run their names through a different database called the SAVE program. It's how we try to keep illegal immigrants off welfare, and also legal immigrants who haven't been here long enough to qualify for welfare. It works pretty well, hardly perfect, but it does work. But Congress explicitly chose not to do that. And so they made a decision to give billions to illegal immigrants. Everybody knew it would happen, and it's happening.
Well, and we're not even getting into the all the prisoners that are getting the checks, including the Boston Marathon bomber, who's a naturalized American citizen, even though he's a mass murderer. But anyway, I'm looking at this story that summarizes your report. Not included in the numbers are 1.8 million illegal aliens that the Social Security Administration has estimated use Social Security numbers that don't match their name. So that would be a guy who stole my Social Security number or your Social Security number, and then he's been claiming various welfare programs or whatever, and now
that's a different estimate. But it's even worse than that. The Social Security Administration has estimated there's about 700,000 people who have these stolen numbers. So like the guy who took your number. On top of that, SSA estimates there's 1.8 million with basically made up names and numbers that don't match.
So those are the guys.
Still all are allowed to work in the United States.
Okay, so those are the guys we know in Massachusetts and every other state, but I just know them from Massachusetts. These are the guys who go to the local illegal alien drug mart or wherever and buy some fake stolen numbers from Puerto Rico, and then go and get a Social Security number, and they're operating at a driver's license, and then they apply for EBT, Mass Health, whatever else on welfare, right? Those are those people.
Yeah, I mean, those folks shouldn't be able to get much welfare, though I can't speak to the particular case of Massachusetts programs, if the state funds them. But yes, there are about 1.8 million, based on the last estimate, of these people who have these numbers that you would think that SSA and the Social Security Administration and IRS would not accept, get back to the employer and say, look, you've got to fix this record. That name and number doesn't match any in our records. Nope, they don't do that. And it's possible some large share of those people will get Social Security checks, in addition to people who had work authorization, but now it's expired. It seems certain that they're going to get Social Security checks, but we wanted to be conservative. There's an estimated 600,000 of them. We didn't put them into the estimate. We did put the stolen identities because there's no way to weed those people out. So, yeah, it's possible, just possible, that the total from this one bill will be somewhere around $8 billion if all those other groups get it. It's unclear. Our estimate of $4.3 billion, we're pretty confident of. Those folks have numbers and they're going to get it. But there are other groups who have they're more in a gray area. They may or may not get it. We're just not sure.
And, you're talking about these asylum seekers, quote unquote, who are given the work authorization numbers or the Social Security numbers. The vast majority of these people are scammers too, aren't they? When they come before an administrative law judge or a court?
Right. We do know that most of them will either not show up and abandon their claim. And even if they do go through the process, most of those individuals will not qualify. Maybe 5 to 10% do qualify for political asylum. But the way it works is after 180 days, or now they've actually tried to extend that, you get not automatic, but you pretty much can get work authorization. So the whole reason to apply for asylum is to forestall deportation. And if you just wait a few months, we'll actually give you a Social Security number and work authorization. So that's why people do it. Now, because so many people have done it, the system is now completely overwhelmed, which creates even more incentive to do it because they're never going to get to your case and you can continue to live and work in the United States. So the more overwhelmed the system gets, the more applicants it tends to get because everybody realizes it takes 2 to 3 years to hear asylum cases. Then another year you have an appeals at the Board of Immigration Appeals. And then if you want, you can also go over to the federal courts and appeal. So asylum cases can drag on for a decade. And all that time you can live here and work here illegally as long as you just keep renewing your work authorization.
And once you get
and that's why so many people do
Once you get the Social Security number, though, you can claim to be a citizen and go on welfare, though, right?
No, technically you should not. The numbers...
But I mean, reality-wise, though, Steve.
Here's what happens. That in general, no. That SAVE program will weed out most people from things like Medicaid, or it will weed out most people from things like food stamps. But so just having a Social Security lets you get these cash payments. Also would let you get the EITC, which is another cash payment, and the ACT, another cash payment. But it would not let you get like Medicaid or food stamps or TANF. But if you have any U.S. born children, they're immediately eligible.
Yeah, that's
so
the
a very
anchor
large
baby.
fraction of illegal immigrants, maybe 2 million children of illegal immigrants, 2 to 3 million,
right,
are on all these other programs.
Yeah, that's
so
you have the once you have the baby, you don't have to work anymore.
Well, that sometimes happens, but remember, in our system, this is important, you can work and still get welfare, and that's true for the native-born population. A very large fraction of people who get Medicaid or have food stamps or get SSI or have WIC and free school lunch for their kids, those people do work. It's both. Work and welfare go together a lot. And a lot of times people don't report all their income, and that way they can qualify for more. Don't think of welfare as something that goes to people who only don't work. No, it goes to a lot of workers. And that actually is what we see with the immigrant population and with much of the native-born population, a lot of welfare and work together. And it's a great deal for businesses. The reason they like it is they don't have to pay their workers more. They don't have to cover them with health care. Think of it this way. I can now pay someone, and then the taxpayer comes in and gives him the EITC and the Earned Income Tax Credit and free school lunch.
That's why the corporations are for letting all these illegal aliens in, because I'm picking up the tab.
To some extent, that's right. That's right.
And let me ask you about the earned income. We don't have much time left, but let me ask you about the earned income tax credits, because you mentioned that EITC. Now, a lot of illegals and native born, but it seems like it's more of an illegal problem. They invent children, don't they?
Well, no, you can't collect unless you have a valid Social Security number. So unless you've stolen an identity, a name and number that match, you won't be able to get it. But remember, there's almost 5 million U.S.-born children under the age of 18 of illegal immigrants.
But so what I'm saying is, though,
they don't have to do that much inventing.
How many children that don't exist, the illegal aliens invented to rip off this other welfare program, earned income tax credit? How many of them are collecting the stimulus payments?
Right. What I can say is that number was that 2.6 million. All the people who qualify for this, many of the people who qualify for the stimulus payment will get the EIT and ACT. I think there is some significant fraud in those other cash programs, but mostly it's not fraud. It's just illegal immigrants have a lot of kids that are U.S. born, and they can conceivably get the payments if they themselves have a Social Security number too. So yes, billions of dollars is going to illegal immigrants.
978
no question about it.
One last question from one of the texters. When these people go through the immigration courts for 2 or 3 years, who pays for their attorneys?
At present, though, the Biden administration is trying to change that. At present, either a nonprofit or they themselves have to pay for it. You're not, unless you're being charged with a crime. If you're just trying to fight deportation and get asylum, there are all kinds of nonprofits from the ACLU and everywhere else that often provide you an attorney, but it's not taxpayers. Though again, the Biden administration wants to change that. So they want you to pay for it.
Yeah. So we have to pay to let someone come in to live off me. I have to pay for his legal fees to come in and leech off of my earnings. What a great system.
Yeah, I mean, there would be a quick way to fix that. You can the credible fear hearing is this quick triage that we do, but the standards are so weak that almost everyone makes it to the court. If we just tighten that up, we could cut asylum claims by half, 2/3, get rid of most of the fake ones, and really concentrate on the people who need it. But we have chosen not to do that either, unfortunately.
Steve Camarota, we really appreciate you being with us. Center for Immigration Studies. Your website is CIS.org. Correct?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks. And thanks for doing all the good work, you and Jessica Vaughn and the others at CIS.org. Hit refresh on your dinner routine with HelloFresh. Right now, you can take advantage of a new limited time offer and see why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh delivers simple recipes and high-quality ingredients picked at the peak of ripeness so that they're bursting with flavor by the time they reach your doorstep. HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and grocery store trips so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes or less. Try their 10 to 20-minute meals, low prep recipes, quick breakfast and lunch, perfect for your busy schedule. HelloFresh offers more than 25 recipes each week, so there is something for everyone to enjoy, all designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity.
And Howie, they always have things that you would never think of to make on your own. You would never think of if you had it in your own cookbook. You would probably never even look at it. Pork meatloaf parmesan over spaghetti marinara. I would have never thought of that, but it sounds delicious. Zucchini mozzarella, and sun-dried tomato paninis. All kinds of creative stuff that you would never think of throwing together.
Yeah, you could break out of your boring dinner routine, and here's the added bonus. You don't have to go to a supermarket and confront Karens and wear masks and worry about the one-way aisles and the social distancing. Is it 3 feet? Is it 6 feet? Is it 25 feet today? Which is it today? What are they saying? You don't have to deal with that. HelloFresh delivers right to your doorstep, and it gives you better value. 4 out of 5 HelloFresh customers say it helps them lead a healthier lifestyle with delicious low-calorie, carb-smart, and vegetarian options. And it's 28% cheaper than shopping at your local grocery store, 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal, according to Zagat's dining survey. There's no way to lose. Go to HelloFresh.com/Howie12 and use code Howie12 for 12 free meals, including free shipping, for a limited time only. That's HelloFresh.com/Howie12 and use code Howie12 for 12 free meals. I'm Howie Carr.
Howie Carr. You can trust him. He's not like the others.
This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you in part by 110 Grill. Join a winning team. Apply in person.